From Montana's news leader, this is the MTN 530 News.
I'm Russ Riesinger. We're heading up the Beartooth Pass in a 1937 Yellowstone National Park touring bus. We'll take you along for the ride and tell you the story behind preserving these historic buses.
The Billings Food Bank hosted a Farm to Trunk event on Wednesday. I'll tell you why these events are more important than ever coming up.
I'm Brandon Warren, and coming up, we'll have updates on the missing hiker near Red Lodge.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us midweek. I'm Jeanelle Slade, but before we get to all of those stories, we have another bumpy night ahead of us. So we're going to head straight to the Q2 Weather Center with meteorologist Ed McIntosh. Ed, more storms have been developing throughout the day. So what are we seeing right now?
There's a lot of gusty winds, and that's going to be the big story tonight, Jeanelle. We're going to start in areas around Winnett, Millstone. You got hard hit last night in the same area, and now tonight again we're seeing some areas of showers, thunderstorms, but also wind gusts and wind-driven hail could cause some problems as that continues to move over into northern Treasure County, just north of Hysham. The other system we're watching right now, just coming off the mountains around Livingston, was producing some stronger winds and hail a short time ago. It will continue to move out towards Big Timber. Eventually that line starts to move closer to the Billings area. Everything in the pink shaded areas shows where we have a severe thunderstorm watch into effect for the evening hours, meaning conditions are right for those storms to develop. We'll expect that first wave to start to move into the Billings area, likely between 7 and 8 o'clock, and then move over towards Forsyth, Miles City by the time the sun sets. We'll take a closer look at the forecast details in just a little while.
All right, thanks so much, Ed. Well, search efforts stepped up today for a missing 23-year-old hiker near Red Lodge. As of news time, Tatum Morrell has not been found. But as Q2's Brennan Warren tells us, multiple teams are jumping in to try.
After making no significant progress in the search for 23-year-old Tatum Morrell, Search and Rescue has now sent out 3 dog teams to help try and locate her.
He's looking for human scent. He can also find items that have human scent on them. But he's mainly looking for that person.
Here's a demonstration of a search dog finding someone.
Now he'll come back and jump on me in theory. Show me!
Another way officials are trying to narrow down her location is by pinging Morrell's inReach device. An inReach is a satellite communicator made by Garmin that can send messages and track location.
We've worked with Garmin to try to get all of the track information. She did send a message on Thursday evening to her mother, and the messages go out and send a location when they do. And then apparently she turned it off. It could be that the battery also died.
inReach has a mobile app where you can create an account and enter information such as emergency contacts. Search and Rescue believes that Morrell has or had her inReach device with her since it is not at her campsite. They are also holding out hope that Morrell could send a signal at any time, assuming the battery on the device is not dead.
The most important feature is the SOS button. So they all have an SOS button. So even if my phone is not working and I'm not able to send a message out, I can press that SOS and that will start a whole process. So that goes back to a call center for Garmin, and then based on the account that I have set up, it will contact local search and rescue and my emergency contacts.
Going forward, Search and Rescue will continue doing all they can to locate Morrell. In Red Lodge, Brandon Warren, MTN News.
Thanks, Brendan. And several counties, including Yellowstone, joined the search today, along with 3 helicopters and 3 dog teams. Well, also in Red Lodge, a 55-year-old Bridger man accused of starting the Robertson Draw fire pleaded not guilty to arson charges today. John Lightburn was arrested in connection with 2 felonies related to the fire, which was ignited south of Red Lodge back in June. Now, Lightburn is accused of riding his dirt bike on a trail at the base of the mountains the morning of June 13th when the engine began flooding. Now, Lightburn allegedly ignited the area while testing a spark plug near spilled gasoline. He faces 2 felony negligent arson and criminal mischief and 1 misdemeanor charge for negligent arson. Well, now that possessing small amounts of marijuana is no longer illegal in Montana, law enforcement agencies are forced to take another look at how they use their drug-sniffing canines. Tonight, MTN's Jonathan Ambarian shows us some of the ways they're adjusting.
This is Willi. He's a 6-year-old German Shepherd, and since 2016, the Lewis and Clark County Sheriff's Office has used him for apprehending suspects, tracking, and also for looking for illegal narcotics. But when Montana voters passed a measure legalizing marijuana in the state, that meant the training he underwent had to be changed. Sergeant Uriah Wood, Willi's handler, contacted the company that trained him. They said the two options were to replace the dog or attempt to retrain him so he would no longer alert for marijuana.
Knowing how trainable and how smart he is, I suggested to our administration, plus as a cost savings, let's try the abandonment training.
Wood took Willi to Ohio for 2 weeks of intensive retraining. He says the results have been clear.
He went through it, he passed with flying colors. We've been out on the street working. He hasn't given any indication of marijuana in any of our daily trainings.
The Montana Highway Patrol has taken a different approach with their canines. They don't plan to retrain any of their 9 drug-detecting dogs. Instead, they'll replace each dog as they reach the end of their law enforcement career.
At this time, we're strategically going to have some of those dogs, as the replacements come in, not be trained on marijuana.
However, MHP plans to keep some dogs who are trained for marijuana so they can detect large amounts, which are still prohibited.
Our canines are not used on the person that doesn't use their turn signal and gets stopped. It isn't just a random thought to utilize a canine sniff. These are cases that there are several indicators that this person is transporting a large quantity of illegal drugs.
During this year's legislative session, state lawmakers approved $300,000 to help law enforcement agencies replace or retrain canines to adjust to the changes in marijuana law. In Helena, Jonathan Ambarian, MTN News.
Thanks, Jonathan. Now, authorities say the typical canine lasts around 7 years in law enforcement. Now, that fact plays a role in whether agencies decide to attempt retraining or just look for a replacement. Well, Yellowstone County says it will share federal dollars with the Warden Water District to help fix a water issue that spanned years and prevented residents from drinking it. Now, the Water District asked county commissioners back in June for a portion of the $31 million coming from the American Recovery Rescue Plan Act. For 2 years, the Warden water system has been plagued with high levels of nitrates. County officials now say they'll redirect the county's entire minimum allocation grant of $2.8 million to the Water District. Water District officials say the most expensive phase of that project, at $7.2 million, still has yet to be financed. The Water Board will resubmit a new grant application to the state for more funding. Well, another Democrat has entered the 2022 race for Montana's new congressional seat. Monica Tranel, an attorney from Missoula. Now, she filed her papers Monday and then launched her campaign with a 2-minute video. Now, the video highlights her background as an Olympic rower and growing up on a ranch in eastern Montana. Tranel says she's a Democrat because Republican economic policies have hurt the middle class. State Representative Lori Bishop is the other Democrat already in the race, and at least 2 others are considering a run. 2 Republicans are also running for the open seat. Well, for the next 3 days, the Billings Food Bank will pass out food boxes, no questions asked, in its final Farm to Trunk event. The federal program ended at the start of the month, but the need is still there. In tonight's Positively Montana, Q2's Mitch Laggy tells us how the food bank is now helping more people than ever.
Over the course of the COVID-19 pandemic, the Billings Food Bank's Farm to Trunk program has exploded with popularity. On an average 3-day run, food bank volunteers give out 1,500 boxes full of food to people, no questions asked, in the food bank parking lot. Billings Food Bank Executive Director Cheryl Shandy said the federal program that supplies a portion of the food for the events ended at the start of July. But people should keep an eye out for more of the events throughout the remainder of the month. Shandy said the food bank is seeing about 2.5 times its normal number of users. The demographic of who utilizes the service usually shakes out into thirds, with a third of the people being 19 or younger, a third of them being families, and the last third are seniors. Shandy said even with the increased need, the food bank's ability to help has also increased. Between federal COVID-19 relief money, the regular budget, and donations. Staff purchased $200,000 worth of food with a 2-year expiration date. Shandy said the local community is always great at supporting the food bank.
But it's dated for 2 years. So we don't have to worry about it expiring on our shelves, and we don't have to worry about whether we're going to have a source for the things that we use. So we've gotten really well stocked, and people have been so generous. It's just amazing. The community and the businesses here have been so supportive, and I'm sure that is the same story with anybody that's doing what we do.
After the Farm to Trunk programs wrap up in July, the drive-through element of the distribution may carry over into other food bank events. However, Shandy said they may move to a punch card system, where people will have to give their name in order to receive food. In Billings, Mitch Laggy, MTN News.
Now, volunteers will pass out food boxes tomorrow and Friday between 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. And Mitch says, please remember there is a limit of 1 box per car. Up next on tonight's MTN 530 News right here on Q2, they were icons in Yellowstone National Park before World War II. We head back to Red Lodge to show you how their history is being preserved.
Scott Breen in Big Timber, where ironically some of the most important cowboys throughout this cowboy Christmas are the ones we rarely notice. I'll tell you why straight ahead.